Alright guys, welcome to my first YouTube video. Today I'm going to be going over how to find supports and resistances using zones and price levels, and kind of how I will day trade using those zones and levels. So to start, I always like to look at the big picture, and I like to kind of draw support and resistance zones, major key areas on the chart. And so how I typically do that is this rectangle tool. And so I'll start by looking for pretty clear tops and bottoms with lots of weekly wicks touching. Here's a level, for example, we found support at today. And so how I'll draw these is I will start the top at the closest body that closes here, and I will draw it all the way to that bottom wick, so that will be the bottom of the zone. And if you're wondering how these are see-through, go to Edit, go to More, and you can actually change the transparency here, so you can see the candles very easily. So that's how I do that. So at the top here, always reading from right to left, we see that there's another body and a couple wicks here. We've touched it again here, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that zone. Again, from that body to the top of the wick. And we keep reading from right to left. We've got another one here. So we're going to do the same thing. And we'll have another one here. Pretty straightforward on these zones. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. There's maybe there's clearly a level here. You could maybe draw this. And that's probably good for now, just to give us a nice big picture. So after I have these zones, I'm going to go down to a daily chart and looking a little bit closer, and I'm going to actually do the same thing on the daily chart, again looking from right to left. And so the first one I kind of see is this 294 level here. We've got a lot of touches recently. We've got two highs here and here that also kind of match up with it. So I am again going to draw to kind of this top wick, and I'm going to go down to that body right there, and that's pretty good. You can see that lines up pretty nicely with these touches. So I'm going to probably keep it at that for the daily. Just focus on this recent price action. So then I'll move to price levels. After I have these zones, it kind of gives me a good big picture. And then I want to actually find, okay, well, these zones are good, but like what specific price levels can a stock actually stop at? And so there's a few things that you want to look for. One is breakup and breakdown candles. A candle like this right here on 10-1. A big candle that usually closes near the lows, and it's usually breaking a support level or a resistance level. And so the tops of these can often act as very strong support or resistance. In this case, it would be resistance at the top. And so, either the top of the body here or the top of the wick, somewhere in that zone there, is most likely going to be strong resistance. Another thing that's good to look for is gaps. And so where we actually found support today was a gap, and it was from this candle right here. You can see it closed down here, and we gapped up, and we never came back to fill it. So that's a level we can have marked. The actual level is 284.85. That's not exact, but there you go. So that's typically a level you want to look for. We obviously have a lot of pivot lows in this zone. I like to mark kind of all possible levels within my zones. So you have pivot low there, you've got a pivot low there, and you've got a couple there, general area. So those are some specific price levels within my bounce zone, my long-term support zone, that could find large bounces and large swings like the one we saw today. So now I'm going to go down to a smaller chart, You can do this same kind of strategy with hourly candles. Look for breakdown and breakup candles. For example, let's go here. We have a support. This candle right here breaks down. It's a 1 hour candle, breaks down. You can see as price starts to come back up towards the top of that, it keeps getting rejected, right? And right here, it finally comes up towards the top, gets rejected, and we go on another leg down, right? So breakup and breakdown candles are very important. Obviously, just looking for pivots where price really jumps away and has a strong movement in the other direction. For example, today, that was also a gap. That's an important level because of how price reacted off of it, right? So that's kind of how I paint my big picture with support and resistance zones and finding important price levels within those zones. And now I'm actually going to take you down to a smaller time frame, and I'm going to show you intraday important levels that I like to mark that kind of give me a sense of where a stock is headed for the day. So obviously here I have some zones, but I don't have anything in the middle of the day, to see where the important levels are. So there's a few things I like to mark, and I'm doing all these with price levels. So first is I'm gonna look at the previous day, and I'm gonna mark the previous day's high. I'm gonna mark the previous day's low. I'm gonna mark the closing price from the previous day. I'm going to mark the pre-market highs and lows. And then I'm going to mark the open price. And you also want to pay attention to any current day lows and highs that are made. Those can also act as important levels after they are made, and price comes back to them later in the day. And so here, I get a big picture by having my zones and very important levels on SPY. And I also have intraday levels. So I can see after price comes down here, we get a strong bounce. I might not want to take a trade straight off the bounce because the trend is down, right? I don't know that it's going to reverse. I don't know that it's going to keep going while it's happening. Obviously, we can see it did. But these intraday levels, they give me a way to take a long trade after the SPY has come back up and retaken some of these levels. And clearly, you want to make sure that there's room on the upside, right? So after SPY has actually broken all of these intraday levels, it's come back above pre-market highs, then you could take a long trade, right? Then you could say, okay, well, it has a lot of room until the previous day's high. So I'm going to take a long trade, and you can make your stop loss one of these important levels, right? You could make it the pre-market low. You could make it the closing price here, which actually acted very strongly. You could make it the previous day low, depending on how much room you want to give it to run. So I actually did take a long trade. I took it right about here when it was coming back down to test the closing price. Made a nice little profit on some calls there. So yeah, this is kind of what I do with every stock. I start weekly, I move down to daily. I create my zones to give myself a good big picture. And so that way when I'm trading intraday, I can say, okay, this stock's coming up to one of my zones that I think is important. And, I want to be careful. It might reverse. I'm not going to maybe take a trade on it. But if it does reverse and then recaptures my intraday levels, then I can start thinking about trades. How much room does it have until that next level? Is the reward worth it? Where can I put my stop loss, right? Where can I put my loss? Here you can do closing price, previous day low. You want to have these levels in mind, especially intraday when you're day trading. And so combining this big picture and these smaller important intraday levels is kind of how I make my strategy. I play breakouts. If something does reverse and it recaptures those breakout levels like it did today on SPY, that's also a trade I can take on a breakout the other way. So I hope this kind of helps you guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Just leave them in the comments. hit me up on social media. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching.